So, My Hero Academia's third episode is finally out, and without any hyperbole, this might be the best episode My Hero Academia has ever produced. From the story, to the art, to the animation, all of it has blown everything that we've seen prior out of the water. And I'm here to break down and review it for you guys. So, let's dive right into it. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Andrew, and I'm here to do my breakdown for My Hero Academia, the final season, Season 8, Episode 3. And there's a lot that we really need to go over, so I'm going to try to dive right into it. And before I do that, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to my YouTube channel, leave a like, and leave a comment. That really just shows how much you want to see more material and me reviewing the rest of this season. And without the way, let's dive right into the breakdown. And to start off, the title of this episode is The Final Boss with 2 exclamation marks, and how it takes its name from manga chapter 405, and this episode covers new material from chapters 404 to 406. And very interesting about the title in this episode is that we do not get the traditional title card with the title on it, but it's actually implemented into the actual animation and the episode itself at the halfway point, where it's also actually a reference to a line that Bakugo says to All For One as he saves All Might and is about to confront him for his final fight of the series. So I really like it when the anime includes both the actual title of the episode into the actual anime proper. However, it does make my life a little bit harder when it comes to making these videos because I'm not going to have a very clean shot of the actual opening or the title for the video. So you win some, you lose some, and in this case, All For One is losing a lot. Also, something else that I forgot to bring up before we got into the episode proper, there's actually a change in the opening as well. And from what I can see, it's just a very minor change, but ever since Bakugo was revived, he is now in the opening proper. So that's something that I wanted to bring up, and let's get back to what I was talking about prior. But the episode begins proper from where we left off with the reveal that Bakugo is alive and is ready to fight against All For One. And when it comes to the new scenes, starting off with chapter 404, we get to see the students who we saw earlier in the season, as well as earlier in season 7, recording the entire fight between All Might and All For One, as we show that they have a very unrealistically close-up shot of All For One ripping All Might nearly in half. And how this is a brand new scene added to the anime, not seen in the manga, which really adds to the immersion of this fight, and how it really just shows how this fight is truly being broadcasted around the world. And speaking of around the world, this is where in both the anime and the manga, we get a pseudo montage of showing random civilians reacting to All Might quote unquote dying, as we also get these scenes expanded upon more in the anime. For instance, the anime could have just had them all be still frames, but each sequence shown in the anime of this moment has some type of animation or movement to it. And there's also a combination of both new scenes that are original to the anime, such as a man in a location where he can see the Aurora Borealis, a priest praying in a church, a man wearing assumedly Middle Eastern attire, and a young woman in a more European style town. All of these are anime original and are not seen in the manga, but these added scenes really help to show how globally All Might's influence has become, as well as showing how much the fight is spreading across the world and how truly global it actually is, and really just showing that if this loss happens to the heroes in Japan, the entire world will see it and be affected. But even with those added sequences, we do get to see some sequences that were very much in the manga. However, a difference between what we saw in the manga versus what we see in the anime is that the anime very much focuses on the breath coming out of everybody's mouth at this point. And this is very important because this bigger emphasis on both these characters and the civilians breathing is a very much a focal point for how Bakugo was actually able to save All Might by, in a way, amplifying the winds that were able to push him forward with enough time to actually save All Might, which is very much shown in the manga too, but is more heavily explained and shown in the anime. But since we brought up All Might again, let's talk about the sequence between Bakugo's revival and him saving All Might, because the sequence from start to finish of Bakugo and Deku using both of their quirks, as well as the momentum of centrifugal force to help blast Bakugo all the way to where All Might is to save him, all of that looked amazing and extremely well animated. And the anime did the same sequence of scenes from the manga justice. However, there are some very different changes made between the anime and the manga. For instance, the anime made the sequence of Bakugo flying towards All Might and All for One a lot more colorful, and how there are multiple strands of rainbow energy reflected off of both Bakugo as well as the surrounding, and how this reflection is most likely in relationship to the connection that the people have as they all together are trying to support All Might, and that the actual colors themselves serve as a pseudo substitute for the double page spread of everyone hoping All Might survives, which is not replicated in the anime. And that's most likely due to the fact that in the manga, Horikoshi could have drawn every little image in detail because he was able to do it in both black and white. However, if you wanted to do that in an anime format, you would not only have to do that, but also have to show it in motion. A way they could have done it is by having in the background as All Might, as Bakugo is flying, showing every single image of them in the background. But if you see the page, there's probably over 100 small panels that they would have had to draw in detail, and what they did was still very fantastic, but allowed them to, not completely destroy their bodies by trying to emulate the manga. And how the anime does it is that we do see the sequences interspliced between Bakugo flying towards where All Might is to try and save him, and eventually saving him, because they actually use multiple different still images as well as animations that are actually in motion, and they do this by having a lot of them watching what's happening, aka seeing Bakugo flying towards All Might, as well as just having more images of just the perspective of the people watching it from the screen without the screen being in frame. And how the anime more or less chooses particular characters from that double page spread in the manga, from characters that we've seen to characters that we haven't seen, such as the young black man that we saw last episode, even to characters that we've seen prior, such as the kids that supported Endeavor, as well as just some more anime original scenes added in as well. So yeah, a lot of things did change between the anime and the manga, but there are still some that stayed the same. The anime, like in the manga, still shows that the joint support that was able to get Bakugo to save All Might was all due to all of these characters and civilians' hopes and breaths, which is later explained by quote-unquote Night Eye in this sequence as the energy that was needed to change fate that he foresaw around season 4, which we see relates to the energy that was also used for Deku to twist and change his own fate to save Eri, showing that it's all coming back together within this final fight. And even then, once All Might was saved, we get to see his conversation with Night Eye as we get a different perspective visually in the anime from the manga, whereas in the manga, we see his entire face as if we are facing him, versus in the anime where we only see it from the side. But alongside that, we also get to see all of the other characters' reaction to the person who is saving All Might, aka Bakugo, including the two kids from the second movie, My Hero Academia Heroes Rising, Katsumo and Mahoru Shimano. And what's even more interesting is, very much like in the manga, they're confirming that the My Hero Academia movies are canon. But also what's interesting about this is that as we see Mahoru screaming out Bakugo, if you look at what Katsumo is holding, he's holding an Edgeshot merch, which is funny, especially with what is happening with Edgeshot, who for the most part helped save Bakugo's life when they were on the flying coffin. Also, if you notice this, you'll come to realize that throughout the episode so far, and we'll see even more of it later on, We see that the characters are reacting to the fight the same way and to the same scenes that we are watching, which is funny because in reality, there should be no way that the people on the top of UA will be able to A, see them as far away as they are, and B, be as clear as they are from what we are seeing. However, it's rule of cool, so I'm okay with it. Also, I would be amiss to also not bring up this one scene of this one random individual that I and many others may have theorized to actually be Deku's dad, because who knows, maybe we'll confirm him later on in the anime. But speaking of Deku's dads, we realize that All Might is now safe thanks to the help of Bakugo, as this is where we get the conversation between Bakugo, All Might, and Deadshot, where Deadshot explains how Bakugo was actually brought back not because Deadshot was trying to revive him and did it successfully, but due to Bakugo's honing of his own quirk over the years due to a sweat bead flowing through his body and being able to jumpstart his heart. And this actually makes some sense, since we know that Bakugo's sweat actually contains nitroglycerin, which, if you didn't know, can actually help with the improvement of blood flow and oxygen transportation to the heart, as well as not allowing the heart to be overworked, as well as causing people to go boom. But it's because of that explosion was able to jumpstart Bakugo's heart and bring him back to life. And we also get All Might giving Bakugo his final part of his suit. And he does this as a gift to Bakugo as a sort of splint to keep his arm stable so he can fight a little bit better. And how this actual part of the suit that we saw last episode was going to explode is actually called Great Explosion Murder God Dynamite, aka Bakugo's hero name, finally concluding and giving the final name of the final equipment on All Might's suit, showing that all 20 characters in Class 1A has been represented in All Might's armored All Might suit. And then we get probably Bakugo's best moment, where he smiles with the utmost joy that we've never seen before in the series. Until we get to the second half of the episode. And this is where we reach the sort of halfway point of the episode, where All For One tries to understand why he's losing and why the heroes keep getting in his way as he's heading towards Tomura to give his quirk over to him to try and reclaim his younger brother. And this is where we get the title drop of the episode of Bakugo saying that he is All For One's final boss, as he sends All For One creaming into a building with a massive attack. And after the commercial break, we do get some slightly expanded upon sequences from the manga and the anime of updates on every battlefield in the war so far, which includes some small added details such as seeing Spinner being captured by the police after his fight with Shoji and releasing Kurogiri. We also get to see Hagakure freeing a lot more people in detail in the anime than we got in the manga, as well as seeing just a little bit more of Gashly fighting against Ojiro, Sato, and Sero. Only by a few seconds, but hey, that's even doubling the amount of time that we've actually seen the fight in both the anime and the manga, so I'm okay with it. As well as getting a little bit more details on how the people were evacuated into Shiketsu thanks to the help of Kurohiro. And from there, we pretty much track very much between the anime and the manga, where we see Lady Nagant reacting to what has happened so far, but there is something that the anime added that was not in the manga, which I like because what the anime added is a scene of the explosion from the perspective of Lady Nagant, which is interesting because in the manga, we do not exactly know how far away she was from the flying coffin of UA and Deku against Tomura Shigaraki when she shot off his arm, but from what we see in the anime and from this new edit scene, we get a better understanding of the distance from where she shot them from, which is more or less confirming that she was not at Central Hospital, but was at a different hospital facility that just so happened to be close enough to the flying coffin to get off her shots, as well as see the massive explosion from her perspective. And we also do get the perspective of All Might seeing the explosion as well, but I think that they animated it even better with Lady Nagant because it was new and they really wanted to show off. And speaking of showing off, the action resumes again with All For One trying to run away from Bakugo, as Bakugo is able to catch up to him in an instant as he begins to learn how to use his power by following the pain and using that pain to track and move his body to move faster with the explosion. And we get this entire animation sequence of Bakugo flying through the air. Everything seems to freeze in place. He's moving so fast that it seems as if he's about to break the sound barrier, but his body can't really take it as he's being thrown through buildings, once again showing how durable these characters are, but eventually coming back around and using and landing a massive explosion on All For One, which is even more intense in the anime than it was in the manga, and how he's doing all of this in a state of pure ecstasy. Once again, this is probably the prettiest and most well animated sequence in My Hero Academia history, and the only thing that could potentially top it is the next episode, as we are approaching the end of this one. Because as we are approaching the end of this episode, All For One finally realizes why Bakugo has been irritating him the entire time, and that is that All For One finally sees Kudo in Bakugo, which causes him to rage even more as Bakugo finally takes on the name that Deku has given him, as he is now Kachan Bakugo, and how he is going to be the hero to defeat All For One where One For All failed. So yeah, this episode was amazing. They were able to get the emotional beats that were in the manga, as well as even expanding upon and really just show how action-packed this final fight is going to be. And if you think that this is amazing, just wait until Deku goes up against Tomoe Shigaraki round 2 or round 3. But yeah, overall, very amazing episode. Very great animation. They even used the flashbacks once again spectacularly. The dialogue was also great, even if I can't really show it that much. Overall, spectacular episode, and I can't wait till next week to do my review and breakdown as well. So, let me ask you this. How did you feel about the episode? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? And do you think that this might be your favorite episode? Leave your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!